everyone hears that communication is so important in relationships. Makes sense, right? If you can't talk to each other, how do you get to know each other? How do you get to actually meet each other's needs? How can you really truly connect if you can't really speak to one another? Well, because it's so huge and because it affects every aspect of your life, especially with the people closest to you, I have a wonderful segment today with a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Sarah Salzman. Let's just welcome her right to the stage right away. Hey, Sarah, good to have you here.
Thank you, Junie.
You could hear in her voice that we have a love relationship. We love each other. We've known each other for years. We've supported each other. And I just friggin' love this woman. She's got the chops when it comes to communicating because at the end of the day, people sometimes are afraid of communicating. They don't feel safe communicating, and yet they want to have that deep connection with others. So we're going to be diving in. But first, let me tell you a little bit about this amazing woman. So, Dr. Sarah Salzman, Ph.D., is a leading couples psychologist and the founder and CEO of the Couples Communication Institute. That institute is dedicated to helping couples achieve lasting closeness and intimacy through effective communication. Sarah's been doing so much work, such great work out in the world. All about her is going to be in the show notes. I just want to just jump right in so you could experience her, learn from her, and take all of your relationships to the next level. So, let's just dive in, sister. I'm so happy to have some time with you. You're so brilliant with what you do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad.
Yeah, yeah. So, there are a lot of people that are listening and watching. And for those of you that are watching on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe, by the way, right now, so you don't forget, so that you don't miss any of these amazing episodes. Because this particular episode is an example of a tool, a huge tool that can help you dive deeper and feel energized and closer with the people that matter most to you. So let's just go right there, Sarah. How do you see that? Like, how can communication actually bring people closer and actually feel more like juice in the relationship?
I love that word juice. Um, as you said in the beginning of your introduction, communication is everything. It's the interstitial tissue of everything. It connects us. And when we really feel seen and heard, understood and supported, it literally makes us feel juicy. It makes us feel so warm and connected to the person who's listening to us. When we feel maybe dismissed, or the person is like sitting there looking at us, but it's clear that they don't hear a thing, we don't feel any of that juiciness. We don't feel any sort of connection at all. It's really off-putting. It's alienating. Um, and sad as it may be, great communication is not natural. Great communication just doesn't come easily, but it is something that you can learn how to do. And when you do it well, oh my gosh, it fills you up. It fills up the other person so much.
Oh my God, it's so true. I mean, when I look back at my life, and I I hadn't been taught. We have not been taught how to actually speak to one another. Uh, when I finally learned that, I realized that it brought me closer to my beloveds. But in the past, I saw it as scary. I saw it as like if I spoke up, it might cause more conflict. I had to be more careful and on guard, which, as we know, that's not going to bring us closer together. So here we are talking about deeper connection and juiciness, and yet we haven't been taught, and people are scared to actually speak their truth or lean in to having conversations during conflict. So what might people do so that they can be heard, can feel that connection, and not be so scared of what might happen if they actually open up their mouth?
Yeah. Yeah. Junie, one of the things about being scared, one of the things about being scared of conflict, um, we have to listen to that voice and we have to be discerning. Discerning is one of my favorite words. We have to be discerning about who we talk to and who we open up with. So I'm going to share a lot with you today, but communication is a two-way street. And I love the phrase, it takes two to tango because I dance tango. The other person has to be a willing participant, has to be
Mm.
there with you. So if you try to share some of this with someone else and they, strong arm you and reject it, you have to listen to that inside yourself. If you're like, I don't know if this is safe, don't go sharing your deepest secrets with that person. So I just want to say that before we go further, that it's not irrational with some people to feel scared.
I love
Um,
that. I think that's so I'm so glad you started with that because a lot of people, especially with people that are starting to date, they're like, "Well, I don't wanna lie," which I'm always encouraging people to be honest and lower their shadow masks and just be themselves, and yet they don't necessarily want to reveal and speak fully their truth because they don't know this person. So I think it's really important to have that healthy discernment. Is this a safe place? How much do I share? At what point? Because ultimately, we get to call the shots of what comes out of our mouth. So I love that you're starting with that.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what I want to share with you is not something you're going to use on the first date. Um, but maybe just a little bit into a new relationship, you bring up with somebody, hey, this is something that I've been learning, or this is something I want to try out. Can we talk about this together? Can we try this actual way of communicating together? And I'll tell you, if you're starting a new relationship and the person's like, what? No, I don't want to. And you ask two or three times, listen to that and say, "Oh, well, maybe this is not a relationship that I wanna
Yep.
pursue."
I love that too. I think that's so important, and I think it's important to have these conversations before the conversations. That front loading of let's not wait for the bump in the road. Let's prepare for the bump in the road. Let's make sure we have the conversation about how might we do this and how might we handle this. Have you handled this in the past? Like actually having the conversation before the conversation so that you could really see if this person is on the same page or willing to lean in and learn. So again, right there, golden nugget. Hope you guys wrote that down. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments below because this is huge. This is huge. Learning how to speak sooner than later and preparing for those conversations to see who's in front of you. Are they actually going to go for the ride with you? Love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so people, a lot of times when they have these conversations, can feel some concern, some fear, especially if it's something that rubbed them the wrong way. And so maybe they've decided with that discernment, yep, this relationship's important to me. Yep, I really need to have this conversation with this person. but they're scared. How can they enter into that conversation and stay calm and stay grounded and centered? Because when the emotions are there and it's a little heated, that can be that could add to that could add to the fire and keep people from actually having conversations.
Yeah. So, so what I want to talk about is having, you know, a relatively important conversation with another person. I'm not going to be talking necessarily just about chatting, but if I know that I want to talk to a loved one, like a new partner or a close friend like you or something, um, the first thing that I recommend is that you set it up in advance because most of us, almost all of us, do not like to be startled. And, we were talking about we're afraid of conflict or whatever. Most of us um, don't want to feel startled or unprepared. So even today's podcast is a great example, Junie. You and I set this up long in advance, and we both came prepared for what we were doing today. You didn't just dial me up one day and say, "You're on camera now.
Look
Start
out, here we
talking."
go.
Because imagine if you had said that to me, "You're on," and I'd be like, "Wait, what?" And then my heart would start pounding and I would be on guard. I'd be nervous,
Yeah.
right? But instead, you and I set this up. We established what we're talking about. We both know we're talking about communication. And so we come pretty relaxed. And then before we started talking, we both relaxed. I in my space and you in your space. We took a few moments to get ourselves grounded. I did. I think you did too. Took some deep breaths. So that's what you want to do with the other person. You want to say, "Hey, there's something that I want to talk with you about. I want to talk with you about what we're doing next weekend because I have some concerns. When is a good time that we can talk about that?"
So key because people are busy. Maybe they missed a meal. Maybe they've had a hard day. Maybe they didn't sleep well. Set the stage for success because these conversations can get a little tricky and you want to be able to have your own alignment as well as the other person being able to really show up for you. So I think it's so important to have the conversation again before the conversation to say, hey, when's a good time? I think that's one of the biggest things that certainly one of the many things
One of the
that can
many.
yeah, one of the many things that can mess up conversations is the timing. Is the fact that people jump into some of these conversations before they've even processed their own stuff, really looked at what they want, what actually happened before they just throw up on somebody else. Right? I
Right.
mean, that's kind of the classic, "But you, but you, but you," and instead of really going, "Okay, let me take a beat here or 2, ground myself and get clear, and then go, hey, I need to talk to you about something." To again, we want success and for all parties to be as relaxed and present as possible. So plan it, schedule it. And if you can't hold a little bit of space around this, unless it's like dire, like, oh my God, we need to talk about this right now. Like seriously, like time sensitive, you have to. If you can't hold that, that's another piece to look at, like what's inside of you that can't maintain your own emotions around it. Because ultimately, if you truly want connection and you want healthy relationships, start with how do you have a relationship with yourself around this? So really, really good stuff.
So
Yeah.
before we go any further,
Yeah, yeah.
Junie, if your energy is, "I have to do this now," you're likely coming from a fight or flight kind of energy.
Yep.
And fight or flight is the opposite of relaxed and calm.
Yeah.
And if I'm in fight or flight, I'm going to see you as my enemy because fight or flight hormones are built to protect me from the enemy. So I'm likely going to see you as the enemy. And if you are picking up on my fight or flight energy, if I'm coming at you like, we have to talk right now. Like if someone was doing this to me, I'd be like, "Wah!" Now I'm in
Yeah,
fight or flight too. And we cannot have that juicy, connected conversation if either of us are in fight or flight. If I am, if you are, certainly if both of us are, it's over before we start.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. How we're feeling, how we're being. I mean, if we're coming from that fear, that anger, all of that intensity, it people feel it. And what we say, even though the words might be good, maybe you've planned what you're going to say, but the energetics, that what's behind those words, that person's going to feel it, and that's where people get defensive. And that's when there are bigger fights and more
Mhm.
conflict, because people can see that enemy coming. And if we truly want deep love, might we actually just start by remembering that this is somebody we love, that this is somebody we care about, to come from that place, even if you're pissed off at them, to remember that this is someone you really want to have a deeper connection with and have them hear you. Because that's one of the biggest things I hear is they don't listen to me. They don't hear me. Well, how are you showing up? Are you showing up as the critic and pointing fingers? Are you coming out as this crazy, angry, fight flight kind of person? Or are you able to go, ouch, I need to share something, and have that safe container that you've built to be able to hear each other, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, let's just say you've had the talk before the talk. You know how you're going to have conversations. Then you see you have to have a conversation. You choose to have the conversation. It's a choice you make, and you ask for the time and you have it ready to go. Showtime. What happens in the conversation if you guys have different opinions? What happens if you have a different viewpoint or even a different goal around what it is that is being spoken about? Because that in itself can cause more conflict. And then there's navigating inside of this conversation.
So I wonder, Junie, is it okay if we take that question and put it off for a response or two? Because I want to get to something before we get to that. Is that okay?
100%. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your question was, what do we do if we have different ideas or different goals,
Yeah.
right? How do we know we have different ideas or different goals is what I want to talk about first.
Great.
So let's remember together that we're going to get to your question.
Sure.
So the first thing that I want to say is um when when we had that setup conversation, one of the things is that we identified the topic. So now that we're going to sit and we're going to talk together, each of us should have a turn. And, many of us might have learned this in a work type environment, but it feels unnatural in personal communication, but it's important to take turns. I have the floor first or you have the floor first, and we get to have a turn without being interrupted in a kind of a debate kind of a way. So if I'm the first speaker, one of the things that I'm going to do is exactly what you said a couple minutes ago is remember that I love you. Remember that I want to connect with you, and I'm going to speak respectfully about whatever my idea is. And so, my one of my jobs is to be a respectful speaker, but you have the actually kind of more important job of being a really good listener. This
Yeah.
is this is the crux of how we build that juicy communication. And so one of the parts of being a really good listener is um, that your first job is to understand. You're listening in order to understand. You're not listening in order to think through what you're gonna say next.
Oh, yes. I want to like really like pause here because like flashbacks to my marriage, It was like he's on the phone and he's texting and he's like, I'm listening, And then maybe he was able to spit back, the some of the things I said, but I never felt like he was really present. And if he was present ish, I could see his eyes moving and you could tell that he was thinking of the next thing he wants to say or the point he wants to make.
The point.
And I never felt understood. I never felt like I was able to be really received and yeah, yeah. And that just had me more frustrated until I learned how to do this better. So important to if you want someone to really hear you, this needs to be addressed too, and then, of course, give that back as well, because
Yes.
that's the dance. That's the beautiful dance of presence for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I glossed over the screen thing. Like, I'm sorry. If you're having an important conversation, put away your
Oh,
phone,
yeah.
put away your tablet, put away your laptop, put away your
Yeah.
watch. Don't be in the restaurant with the screen on the wall, none of
Oh
it.
my god, yes.
We're 100% present. So,
Yes.
so when you're listening to understand.
Yep.
And so you want to just listen like, am I following this? What is my partner saying? Am I getting it? And then depending on how long the speaker is going, at some point you want to interject and say, "Hey, can I tell you what I think I'm hearing you say at this point?" You might wait till the end, but if your partner's talking for a really long time, you might want to say, can we pause for a moment? Or as the speaker, you could ask for it. You could say, "Hey, I have more to say, but before we go on, tell me what you're hearing me say so far." And then the listener should repeat back a little bit, a little summary of what they're hearing. So I might say, "So, Junie, I heard you say that you felt really frustrated in your marriage when your husband was on his phone and claiming to be listening. You didn't feel understood. Did I get that right?"
Yeah.
So I'm not going to repeat back everything you said, but, that's the essence of what I heard. And I'll ask you, did I get that right? And let's say I didn't. Let's say you said, "No, he was on his phone, but I don't know." You could say, "Actually, not quite." And you just correct me because it's important. We want to catch a misunderstanding before it builds. And here's an example I've used before. Let's say you're going to the store and you say, "What kind of yogurt do you want?" And I say, "Blueberry yogurt." And you say, "Okay, so you want lemon yogurt?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said blueberry. I don't want lemon. I want blueberry." And then you say, "Oh gosh, blueberry." Now, here's something important. And this is a tiny bit of a tangent. It doesn't matter who was wrong. I might have thought that I said blueberry and I said lemon instead, or you might have heard lemon. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's a chance to just correct it, we check in, we move on. So, anyway, back to listening. So, listening to understand, one of the listener's jobs is to repeat back from time to time what they're hearing, and that gives a chance to correct any misunderstandings. Then, before the end of that first speaker's turn, the listener is going to do what's called validate the other person, validate what they're hearing. And this is what it means. Validation means, if I was putting myself in your shoes, if I actually was Junie or was my partner, is what I'm hearing Junie say making sense for who I know Junie to be?
Mm.
It has nothing to do with me. So let's just pretend we're talking about yogurt. No,
Blueberry or
no,
lemon.
blueberry lemon. I could say, Junie, I heard you. No, we'll do the cell phone thing. I heard you tell me that your ex-husband used to be on the phone and pretending to listen, and If I was you, that would make me really frustrated, and that would make me really feel pushed away. I get that you felt frustrated and pushed away. That makes sense to me for who I know you to be.
Mm.
Now, I kind of didn't want to use that example because I feel the exact same way,
Mhm.
but the point is, I want to validate that that's true for you. Now, let's say you were a cell phone manufacturer and an app maker, and you believed in people being on their phones 100% of the time. I might say, it's a little confusing to me that you were upset by him being on his phone because I know you're a champion of cell phones. So help me understand that. That doesn't really line up for me.
Yeah,
Do you see
love
the
that.
difference there
Yeah,
in I'm valid
knowing the
knowing
person and reflecting back what you're witnessing or thinking about their actions and what they shared, and validating what you know about them.
about
So,
them?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it has nothing to do with what I believe. So we'll use a blueberry example. Let's say you love blueberries and I hate blueberries. This is not validating.
hmm,
Junie, blueberries are disgusting. I don't know why you would ever
right,
want to eat blueberry yogurt. No, that's not validating. That's jumping over to me.
yeah, and
Instead, it's
judgment.
yes. And that's part of our
what's
second
yeah,
question that we're getting.
what's wrong with you to like blueberry yogurt? Ah.
Right. So it makes sense to me that you want blueberry yogurt because I know you've always loved blueberries. And
Yeah.
I keep my mouth shut
Yeah.
if I've
Has
always
nothing to
hated
do
blueberries
with you, and it's acknowledging them, which has them feeling seen and heard. Yeah. Yeah.
and understood.
And understood.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to the phone thing. So back when I was scared of him, many, many decades ago, but scared of him, scared of speaking up, walking on eggshells, and him being on the phone. Ultimately, I learned a lot about communication, relationship, and how to do it differently. And so the conversation was, there's something I want to talk to you about. Let's plan some time. It has to do with how we talk to each other and how we're there for each other. And I shared with him, when you're on the phone and I'm sharing something of importance to me, that I don't feel really seen. I don't feel like you're really present with me. That's kind of what I'm witnessing, and that has me feeling whatever the feeling is. What I would want differently moving forward is for these important conversations to have that 100% time together. And I can't remember truly if that ever changed because I'm not with him and it's been many, many years. But I remember thinking, I'm never going to have conversations with someone ever again if they are not looking at me and really able to be present for me. It felt horrible. And it felt like I had to work even harder to be heard and to be understood. And ultimately, that relationship didn't work out so well. So we can notice things that don't work for us, like, oh, the phone, and then that's another conversation. And how we present it is everything we're talking about, because we can present it in a way that's like, this is what's going on inside of me. This is why it's not working for me. This is how it feels to me. Can we talk about how we might do it differently? And that to me is the juice of, oh, my partner is uncomfortable with this or it's not working for her. Let me lean in. But if it's, you never listen to me and you're an asshole and blah, 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 like, how is that going to go? Not so well.
Junie, what you just described is just awesome and perfect, and that's exactly what we want to do. And I want to highlight something that you said, but I just want to make it a little bit more prominent. You're going to have a separate conversation about this. So let's say you and I are talking about what we're going to do on the weekend, but you're on your phone. I'm not going to talk. We're not going to change gears and
Yep.
have a conversation about you being on the phone.
Yeah.
I might choose to stop talking right now. I might say, you know what? I think I want to take a break right now. But Remember a little while ago, I said, we're going to take this question and put it over here and come back to it.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. I notice you're on your phone. I'm unhappy with it. I'm going to make a mental note or I'm going to jot it down in my notebook. I want to talk to Junie about being on her phone.
Yeah.
And another time, we're going to start all over again. We're going to have that set up conversation. I want to talk to you about this. We're going to pick the time. And now we're going to have a conversation only about how I feel when you're on your phone.
Yep. Exactly. Because we can just keep adding on and adding on in the moment, and that's where we get the runaway train and a lot of drama.
And
So
the
I
runaway
love
train,
that.
as you can imagine, is fight or flight.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Get me out of Dodge. And also just like what you said is make a note, whether you're journaling or a mental note of, I need to talk to them about this because this isn't working for me. It also empowers you to choose when to talk, when not to talk, or to stop talking in that moment. Because if you're noticing, oh man, they're not listening to me, don't give away your power. It doesn't feel good when you're not being listened to. You have the choice to say, you know what? I think I need to take a break right now. Let's revisit this later. However you want to say it in a way that honors you and the relationship instead of going, well, I'll just keep talking even though he's hardly listening. And so again, just being really mindful. And one of the things I like to always invite people to notice is how they're feeling in their bodies. Is
Exactly.
your stomach in knots? Is it like, oh my God, he never listens to me? Like good, good information to be tapped into so that you can do something differently. Yeah.
Yes, Junie, 100%. It's not that I'm sitting in judgment of the person I'm having the conversation with. It's I started out calm and now I realize, oh, I'm not calm anymore. I know my signals. I know whether my signal is the pit of my stomach thing or the throat, the whatever it is. I've left relaxation behind. I'm getting into fight or flight. I need to take a break because
Yeah,
I'm paying attention. This is not good for me anymore.
exactly. So, okay, we've set up the time. We're in the conversation. We know what we're going to talk about. One person wants to go to Florida for the winter, and one person wants to go to Utah and ski in the winter. And last year, one of them had their way, and now the other one wants their way and is frustrated that they're not getting their way. Difference of opinion, difference of looking at it. That's my example. You can use whatever example you want. So you're in the conversation sharing this isn't working for me in some way, and I really would like to discuss options. And here you are seeing it differently. And again, use your own example if you want. That just kind of came out of my head. Like, how do you dance that in real time?
Yeah, perfect. So I am assuming that we've had that understanding conversation first, and we both feel seen and heard and understood to the first level where I understand I'm going to pick skiing in Utah and you get Florida.
Right, right. And maybe
um,
we skied in Utah last year and it's like, dang, I want some warmth this winter. You had your way last year. I want to be heard and
right.
be honored this year.
So there's another level that we want to get to before we talk about compromise, and that is understanding what's behind it or what's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the right thing is skiing or the good thing is skiing or I want to ski, but what does it mean to me? And I might tell a story about that, and I want to hear your stories. What does it mean to you to be warm in the summer? Is there any stories? I mean, warm in the winter. Are there any stories from your childhood or your early life about going
Yeah.
south in the winter? Um, as I said, is there anything meaningful to you? Is there any value or um, belief is there anything about kind of even meaning of life? So we want to have that conversation so we understand each other at a deeper level about where these desires come from without
Yeah.
exploring where these desires come from and the stories and the meaning. It just is a kind of futile right or wrong
And it's
conversation.
just information instead of, oh, she wants to go to Florida versus, oh, this is why it's important to her. And now we're in the realm of intimacy, where you're actually getting to understand the person you love and why they want this. Whole different level of understanding for sure.
Yeah. Junie, I noticed that your face and your voice shifted when you said, "Oh, now I see why she
Right?
wants."
Right.
And that's that juiciness.
Yes.
That's that you said intimacy, that's that empathy.
Yeah.
And so let's pretend that you tell me that when you were growing up, your parents brought you to visit your grandma every winter, for a week in Florida. And you tell me the story about how you and your grandma just had the most whatever, fabulous time. And it was like 6 years in a row, and it was the highlight of your childhood. Oh my gosh, now I'm feeling this warmth for you, this understanding, like whatever. And maybe you tell me that you swam with dolphins every summer winter in the South
Hmm.
with your grandma, and how it connected you with nature and with the meaning of life. And now here what this is what happens, Junie. I want you to have that.
Exactly, because if you really care about someone, you want them to
I
be
want
happy.
you to
You
have
want
that.
them to have what they want, what's
Yeah.
important to them. Yes.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna tell you the story of skiing in Utah, and maybe how, to me, skiing in Powder out west is like practically like flying and like floating, and I feel connected to heaven, and I feel
Mm.
connected to spirit, and my body feels so strong, and I feel so uplifted, and I tell you my story from my childhood, and then hopefully you're gonna say, I want her to have that.
Yes.
So then, only then, when we have shared more deeply and we're both feeling, oh my gosh, I want her to have that. Then what happens instead of this, um, what is this?
Conflict.
Of this conflict, of this orientation with each other, now we're sitting on the same bench together.
Right. We're in it together. We're
We're in it
supporting each
together.
other. You're a team. Yeah.
And so the two words that I use in this next conversation are given that.
Okay.
Given that you wanna go to Florida in the winter because it makes you feel blah, 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 and given that I wanna go to Utah to ski because it blah, 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 and we're on the same team, then we say, "Let's puzzle it out.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out together." Now, this kind of "let's figure it out together," that's not gonna work. This is a fight.
Yeah, for those that are listening, she's kind of putting her fists together,
Mm,
for conflict. It's like, yeah, my way, your way, and then there's the battle, so to speak, of this is what I want and versus what we're talking about, which is bringing you together and potentially making a plan of, well, maybe we need to alternate winters. This year is your way, next year is my way, or maybe there's another way to do it. Like now you're in
exactly.
conversation and you're in it to support each other.
Right. So what you just said, Junie, that's being creative together. And
Yeah.
so you for the listening audience, you did describe my fists, and then the second option was my hands, as if we were two people sitting on a bench together
Mm.
being teammates. So so now what we want to do is we want to each we get to have a core area where we don't wish to compromise, and then we have a larger area where we're willing to compromise. So I get to say, I really need to do some skiing in Utah. I get to say that, but I want to make that as small as possible. I need to do that, what, in my life, or once a decade, or once a year, or something. Not, I need to move to Utah 365 days a year and never leave. That's too much.
Yeah.
If I want the whole cake, I'm not going to get this relationship. So we make that as small as possible. And you get to say, I need to go down south in in the winter, at least what, and then we get to figure out, um, all the different creative ways that we can compromise. So, Junie, you've been alluding to taking turns. So that's one idea, but we can play with almost any way of doing it. We can
Right.
play with how long we do it or how often we do it, or do we do it, by ourselves? Do we do that with friends? Maybe I won't ever want to go to Florida, but I'm willing to go to, I don't know, New Orleans or Mexico or something like that. And so we, together, since we're on the same team, we brainstorm and we spitball and we come up with all sorts of ideas. And we're going to be curious and ask each other, what would it be like for you if you went to Florida, and I don't know, whatever my idea is,
Hmm.
in March instead of January? What would
Yeah.
it be for you if you did every other year? What would it be like for you if, whatever? And then, because together we each want the other person to have what they want,
Yeah.
now we're championing, championing.
Championing. Let's just like
Um,
move on from that word.
yes,
We know what you mean.
the both of us, we're
Yeah.
championing the two of us together in this relationship.
I love that. I love that. I'd like to shift gears a little bit here because whether you're in the beginning of a relationship or you've been with somebody for a while, there are these patches sometimes that are harder than others. There might be a lot of different things going on. And there's only so many things you could talk about, especially when you're kind of in the shitter, so to speak.
Oh,
So, like, how do you navigate those rough patches, or how might you suggest you hone in on one or two of those things so that you can work together when there is that kind of dynamic going on?
yeah. So, I just for kind of a bird's eye view of what I teach, what we've been talking about so far, I touch on this in the course that I teach, and you learn about this after you take my quiz when you get my guide. The question that you just asked, this is something I address in a master class that I give. And in my master class, I help people look at um, their intentions and their inspiration for why they want this relationship to be strong and good. So
Ooh,
it's
yes.
essentially more or less what you said earlier, Junie, remembering that I love this person. But you
Yeah.
need something more powerful than just I love this person.
Yep.
Um, because, okay, Junie, one of the things about fight or flight is it is an automatic response by our body, and it doesn't want us to let go of it. Because in order to protect ourselves from attack, we have to kind of go all in. We can't imagine that a saber-toothed tiger was attacking you and you tried to build empathy for the saber-toothed tiger.
Poor tiger, and oops.
Oops, now I'm
Now
dead.
I'm dismembered.
Yeah. So when, as you so eloquently said, your relationship is in the shitter, it's really hard to pull yourself out of some fight or flight emotions and get yourself calm so that you can get back in a different mindset. So you need as powerful um, inspirations as you can possibly gather to kind of overcome this visceral hormone chemical driven fight or flight impulse.
Mhm.
So in order to do that, um, you want to get in touch with what and why this relationship is important, or this thing you're hoping to get is important. What is the deeper meaning? And then what I walk people through in my master class is coming up with something like a motto or a mantra for some of those inspirations. So, for example, um, thinking, your audience might be past this phase, but I don't want to fight in front of the children.
Mm.
If that's something that you identify with, if you build, because if you've been fighting in front of the children and you want to stop fighting in front of the children, and you really realize, yeah, this is so hugely important to me, and you have this motto, not fighting in front of the children, or I want to be calm in front of the children. And if you know, incorporate this into your very being, and now here you are, and fight or flight is that runaway train, and you want to start yelling at your partner, but there's this motto, this mantra that you've been saying to yourself over and over and over, like, not fighting in front of the children is what I
Mm.
want. That hopefully is enough to pierce this overwhelming impulse to keep fighting, to fight back that saber-toothed tiger until it's dead,
Mm.
because your partner is not a saber-toothed tiger and you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, getting in touch with what is really the highest of importance to you.
Love it. Love it. So you've mentioned a quiz, you've mentioned a guide, and you've mentioned a master class. I happen to know they're all friggin' brilliant. How can people participate in all of that?
Yeah. So the quiz is just really short, just 10 questions long, 11 questions long, perhaps. It's at my website, couplescommunicationinstitute.com/quiz.
And it'll be in the show notes in case you didn't write it down. So, okay, so you can
Yes.
go to your site and grab the quiz.
And then after you take it, you'll get a video with your own results, and you get a guide that goes
Nice.
through so much of what we've already talked about and more. So it goes through all those parts that we talked about in the beginning, and it's really, really helpful. And then once you're watching the video, down below there is a link to take the master class. And for people, the first 100 people who are watching this and want to take advantage of it, there's a coupon code for you, Junie30, and you'll get 30% off the masterclass.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And what I will say about Sarah, knowing her for years, knowing her expertise and what she has created, I've seen it literally being created in real time. And the amount of passion and heart and wanting to do such a great job in giving you like such an amazing experience and information. I can't say enough to you about doing the quiz and getting that guide and ultimately doing the master class because Sarah, seriously, there aren't that many colleagues I would say this about. I know when you put your effort into creating something, you give it your all. And I remember how long it took you to create this because you wanted to do it at the level that meant like you're going to make the greatest impact for people that did this. I have witnessed you really going full out. So I highly, highly, highly recommend everyone take the quiz and then some because as you've been listening to this whole episode, there are some really important nuances to have the kind of relationship that you desire. And this is not just your intimate relationships, well, like partner intimacy. This is with your kids, this is with your colleagues, this is with your best friend. I mean, these are skills that you can use everywhere. And so I really encourage you to go to the show notes and do that once we finish this episode. Yeah.
I feel seen by you, Junie.
Aw, well, I do see you. I see how much you offer, and it's gold. It's really gold.
Thank
So
you.
we are at time. This has been such a pleasure. Before I say goodbye to you, Sarah, I just want to invite everybody to remember to like and subscribe to the station or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're finding us. Feel free to put your comments in the comment box on YouTube and think about all your friends when it comes to communication. I'm sure you could think of at least one person that can benefit from doing it a little differently with you. And maybe you can learn together. So that's our episode for today. Sarah, pleasure, pleasure, pleasure as always.
Thank you, Junie.
You're so welcome. All right, on to the next episode for you next week. Mwah. We meet again.
One more thing before you go. Have you taken my Discover Your Love Avatar quiz? It's a 2-minute quiz that can help you not only know your strengths, your superpower, because you have one, also identify some of your blind spots, some of the things that might be having you in your fear, having you behaving in ways that aren't in alignment with your highest self, the way you want to be when it comes to dating and relationships. And it'll also help you discover why maybe the stars haven't lined up for you yet. Bottom line is, you take this 2-minute quiz, you get a full report in your email with details on how to move forward in next level love, whether you want a partner or not. So you can go to midlifeloveoutloud.com/love quiz. The link is in the show notes as well. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the station, I'm going to encourage you to do that too, so you don't miss any episodes. And I hope you got a ton out of today's. See you next week. Mwah.